not vote for me. Honorable Speaker, that is why at times we had difficulty, many of us, in engaging in a shareholder debate and shareholder discourse in terms of how we manage our government in government or in Kenya. Please respect other communities. Please appreciate that sugarcane farmers in Kenya deserve debt waiver just like coffee farmers deserve the coffee waiver that we have given them in this budget and in previous budgets, Honorable Speaker. Those of us who come from the sugar belt, and Honorable Speaker, you know, when you listen to that governor speaking about the sugar belt and imagining that Bungoma County is the entire sugar belt in Western Kenya, he does not know even the sugar companies that were to benefit from that debt waiver. 90% of them are in Nyanza, not in Western Kenya. Only 2 sugar companies, Mumias and Zoia, are in Western Kenya. The bulk of these other companies, whether it's Chemelil, Muhoroni, Sony Sugar, they are in Nyanza, and the people of Nyanza deserve. They deserve to benefit from taxpayers' money, Honorable Speaker, just like the people of Kiambu deserve to benefit from the coffee debt waiver. The people of Nyeri, the people of Kirinyaga deserve. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, let us as leaders, and that's why, Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, I said here last week, and I know what I said here when I quoted a quote, saying that you cannot build a kingdom when you are fixated with attention from the village. I know there are those who took it out of context to try and mobilize a hate campaign. But I call on us as members of the National Assembly to put the nation ahead of our communities, to put the nation ahead of our parochial self-interest, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, as I condemn the actions and the words of the governor for Nyeri, Honorable Speaker, and I will indeed be writing to him to officially inform him some of these things that have been said here in writing for his record, there, so that as he executes exits office, he may travel a bit around the country, just tanga a bit and engage in a bit of political tourism to understand other people around the country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to support what the majority leader is saying, because personally, I was there when we were doing campaigns in Bungoma with the president. And even the time the president went to Bungoma and Migori to waive those debts, I was there. So what I want to ask my brothers and sisters in this house, the Nyeri people are innocent, and I want to apologize on behalf of Nyeri people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Rosa.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Junet did ask a very pertinent question about whether we could receive the report in good time to enable us debate. I'd like to request that could the majority leader give us the assurance that we will receive that in time instead of going into politics. This politics does not answer that question.
He already gave that
Thank you.
assurance, Rosa. Maybe you are not listening. He said the report is likely, and I'll direct him to ensure it is tabled by Tuesday.
Mr. Speaker, I think it was overclouded by all these political statements, which I don't think were part of what Junet had asked. Thank you much, Honorable Speaker.
Didymus?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want also to agree with the leader of minority on what he has said. And Honorable Speaker, if you look at our constitution, anybody who engages in utterances that are against national values, that are against the national interests, anybody who makes utterances that appear to divide this country along how people voted, the tribal lines, those are grounds for impeachment, Honorable Speaker. I want to make it clear here, Honorable Speaker, that the utterances by the governor of Nyeri on what he said is clearly true, that that man is not fit to hold office. And I want to call upon ESTC to begin the process of removing him from office, because every Kenyan requires development. Wherever you come from in this country is not a criminal offense. The tribe that you are is not a criminal offense. And the governor for Nyeri is not fit to hold public office. And the grounds for removing him should begin immediately today. They even ought to have begun yesterday, Honorable Speaker. I support.
Members, I don't want us to escalate this. I want us to... Yes, Farah Malim, I see you...
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Agitated.
I want to support the majority leader in his statements. Mr. Speaker, me and you have been around for the longest. And you remember how the problems in DRC started when Mobutu Sese Seko was the president. He tried to victimize a small minority who are pastoralists called Banyamulenge. Banyamulenge. And there were hardly 1 million of them in a nation of over 60 million. They took up arms because nobody would accept to be a second-class citizen in his own country. DRC has never seen peace since then. It doesn't matter how big your numbers are. If the smallest community in Kenya decides, I'm having a road deal and I'm going to destroy this country, they have the capacity to do it. Let us keep our unity as a nation. We have the most beautiful country in the world. The diversity is our strength. It's not supposed to be our weakness. When a very senior government official says all politics is local, what are you talking about? And you want to be the president of this country? Who is going to allow you to be the president of this country? Because you're basically saying that I will only take care of my small village up there. Honorable Ichungwa, you have done us proud, and many like you. Let us keep the unity of this country for God's sake and not listen. And the National Cohesion and Integration Commission should be doing its job. It should be doing its job very well. We went close to having a collapsed stadium, Mr. Speaker, in 2007. Me and you were in the parliament that time. 2008. We avoided that calamity and complete dissolution of the Kenya government because many people came from all over the world to come and assist us. We have to learn from the mistakes we made in the past and never try and do it again. We've seen what happened in Rwanda. They tried to eliminate completely a small minority of Tutsis who are 15%. But they came back and they're ruling that country for 30 years and they'll rule for another 50 years. Nobody gives you a guarantee because you have the numbers that you're going to take over a country. No. Let us protect our unity.
Honorable members, will stop here. I want to laud the majority and minority leaders for displaying patriotic thinking, and members out there. Order. Order, Kasheri. Kasheri, take your seat. Members out there, it is not a Nyeri problem, it's an individual. And Mukami has said as much. Members out there, whether you're a governor or whoever you are, members who are displaying grandiose paranoia in the conduct of their public affairs will be called to order. They will be called to order, and this House has unlimited authority through your committees to summon any such errant characters, whoever they are, and tell them that as a House of the representatives of the people of Kenya, you will not sit and watch any reckless conduct that can bring disorder in this country. And I salute you, majority and minority leaders. Lead the House in the manner you have shown and call out anybody who is errant in their conduct. Thank you. Jared?
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And whereas you have closed that debate, I would want to take a tangent from what both the majority and minority leaders have talked about, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have lately seen discordant voices, especially emanating from the presidency. And the presidency is composed of the president, the deputy president, the cabinet, and those others in that chain, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, whereas I would be least concerned about what happens in Kenya Kwanza, but when these matters have potential to create disunity in our country, then I will be very much concerned, Honorable Speaker. In Bungoma, where you played a very good host to the most successful Madaraka days ever in this country, I did realize, Honorable Speaker, that 40 minutes later, when the president had sat down, the deputy president showed up. And the president of the Republic of Kenya had to welcome his deputy, which is totally a break from tradition, Honorable Speaker. On Sunday, during an event of the Akorino brothers in Nakuru, the deputy president arrived 1 hour after the president had sat down. And just next to that president was his seat, which was being warmed by the Minister for Water and Irrigation, my friend Zachary Njeru. And when he showed up, he started, castigating the weather. He started castigating his means of transportation and many other things, Honorable Speaker. Yesterday, to my dismay, the deputy president took a commercial flight to Mombasa and was hauling his own bag, getting into the aircraft, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this House appropriates and budgets for travels of the deputy president, Honorable Speaker. And at no given time have we ever envisaged a situation where he takes a commercial flight. But if he takes solace out of commercial flights, then it is upon and incumbent upon this House to reduce his travels by 95%, because we know what is being charged by commercial flights and the rates that are being charged by chartered flights, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, whereas this government is barely 2 years in office, we have listened to quite disdainful statements emanating from the office of the Deputy President. And I want to ask you, Honorable Speaker, that the majority leader here present to shed more light over these issues, because they touch on us as the consumers of government services, Honorable Speaker. Whereas a lot has already been spoken about regarding sugar and the loans that were offset by the government, Honorable Speaker. Just yesterday, in a cabinet meeting, 6 billion shillings owed by coffee farmers was cancelled. by the cabinet, Honorable Speaker. And there is no fury about it. But when the same government cancels debts owed by government-owned sugar mills, then it becomes a matter of concern by one particular governor of Nyeri, Honorable Speaker, who has since abrogated himself the role of a spokesperson of somebody else, Honorable Speaker. You know, I've always believed that governors are so busy.
Your point.
I've always believed, Honorable Speaker, that governors are too busy to even indulge in issues holding brief for others, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, these are fundamental, germane, and salient issues that, left unchecked, have the potential to create bigger problems for this country that we all love. So I implore upon my very good friend, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, the MP for Kikuyu, to shed more light on these matters. Otherwise, if there is a real problem that the Deputy President is suffering, that as a House we can help him solve, that this is the right platform. But if he's creating, you know, disunity and playing victim at the same time, so that a particular section of the government would go a different way, then we want to know and call him to order. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the...
Yes, member for Kahawa.
Mr. Speaker, you know, Norwaraka. Mr. Speaker, in as much as this is music to my ear, but we are slowly digressing from the business of the House. I have heard names being made here. And Mr. Speaker, you are the biggest advocate of protection, that persons must not be named here adversely without a substantive motion. That side has a majority, supermajority, so they say. There is nothing that stops them from dragging that Gachietha here so that they can impeach him. They can impeach him so easily by bringing him here and vote against him. So why should we divert from business of this House and enter into some charade and hypocrisy and politics instead of doing business which is before us? We know what you people are saying. We know the politics you are doing. But we also have our politics. We don't want to turn this place into a political arena. We know that this matter has been choreographed. Who doesn't know that?
Order, Honorable Kajwang. Order. Yes, that is Atandi.
Honorable Speaker, I didn't want to enter into this conversation, but Honorable Speaker, let the truth be said. The governor of Nyeri did not say anything out of this world. The governor of Nyeri was simply saying that there is no equity in sharing of national cake, and that's a fact. That when you look at the budget we have just passed here, so many sections of this country are not receiving projects. And the governor of Nyeri, as a leader elected by Nyeri residents, must fight for the welfare of Nyeri residents. So, Honorable Speaker, I think let us stem this discussion. The national cake is not being shared equitably. Most parts of this country are not receiving resources. And I want to support him. Let us not be a government that preaches unity because it is favoring us. Because if there is chaos, people who are stealing will not steal. You don't steal in chaos. You steal when there is unity. So we don't want this conversation about unity, because we need unity and peace so that we can be able to steal in peace. Let us be genuine about unity. If you're talking about unity, let it be about genuine unity. You can't tell me that you are preaching unity here, but there's no development that is coming to my area. You can't tell me you want Kenyans to be united, because the preaching you are giving us is for your good. So the Nyeri governor should not be discussed here, Honorable Speaker, unfairly. And I agree with him. The government must ensure equity in sharing of national cake so that all Kenyans can be happy and be peaceful and be united. You cannot be united in statements, in empty statements. Let us be united. Let us have real unity. Real unity is about how many resources, how much money is going to Siaya, vis-a-vis how much money is going to Kiambu, how much money is going to Washington vis-a-vis how much money is going to Kisumu. That is the unity that I want to hear about, not unity, empty statements about unity. I support the Nyeri governor. Thank you.
Yes, Osoro. Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, what is happening today, or in the recent past, started like a joke from what many considered as mere statements by very top leaders of this country. It started from statements like, the shareholders claiming that there are some communities that really did not contribute to the formation of this government, calling other people shareholders and other people traitors, and people kept quiet. But, Honorable Speaker, if this House keeps quiet, the trend this country is taking will take us back to 2007, 2008, if we are not careful. Because it started from one particular leader, then it went down to what we'll call his supporters, or he recruited some speakers or a mouthpiece to speak on his behalf. And the recent utterances, Honorable Speaker, really shocked the nation, where somebody is questioning on the division of the national cake, how it should actually be shared, that it should be shared on how people voted. I mean, this is shocking. What he did say is that if we go by that formula that he was proposing, then he should also propose that a certain section of people or a region should then not pay taxes. They should also not contribute to the national cake in terms of paying of taxes. That is exactly what the governor of Nyeri meant. And that is extremely selfish, being extremely selfish. But more important, Honorable Speaker, to what Honorable Okello has raised, yesterday was a bit embarrassing. This House passed last year's budget, 2023-2024, and they allocated funds to every arm of government. The executive got their vote, and in particular, the presidency got a budget to help them run their affairs. Every member of this House and even members of public know very well that each office is well equipped with a team of people, with a team that helps people that move around, the executive, members of the executive to move around, like His Excellency the Deputy President. It was a shame, Honorable Speaker, to see His Excellency the Deputy President moving around, carrying a bag, in as much as one wants to pull some PR stunts with, and I say this, Honorable Speaker, with tremendous respect. We should question, it is about time we question the members of staff that work with His Excellency the Deputy President. Where were they when he was carrying the bag? Where were they when they were taking pictures, and some of them, of course, standing behind him as he pulled the bag, which looked very empty, Honorable Speaker. And I think it must have been bought from the airport, Honorable Speaker. Because in as much as we appreciate the fact that...
Order, Honorable Soro. I think what Jared Okello asked was legitimate. But let's not digress into discussing the conduct of the person, of the Deputy President. Jared Okello asked whether, and I saw it in the reason I allowed him to ask that, seek that statement from the majority leader, is that the person of the Deputy President of this country is a responsibility of everybody. His movement to any part of the country has security implications. How he travels, who he travels with, where he goes, has security implications. So I saw it in the context that it is not a matter that is normal to see our Deputy President towing a bag on the airside to the aircraft, because you have appropriated resources to facilitate the work of the office of the presidency. That is how I understood Okello's concern. And Okello was seeking the majority leader to assure the country whether this is something subnormal or this is something that is near normal, or somebody is saying is the new normal, but in security terms, it is not normal. And that's what I expect the majority leader to tell this House. So anybody who seeks to speak to this can only confine yourself within that context. If you start discussing the personal conduct of the Deputy President, I will not allow you. Yes, KJ. What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I was seeking to find out if the leader, the whip is in order, and you have guided so well, Mr. Speaker, on the points that we have to confine ourselves into. But the whip was also deviating into even taking a mickey on very serious professions, Mr. Speaker. He's talking about the Deputy Speaker taking a PR show to the runway. And I would like for the whip to understand that PR as a practice in itself is a very respectable profession. But most importantly, you also got to understand, Mr. Speaker, and I have to put this straight, that the Deputy President is on record saying that he is a product of the drama festival. He has acted on stage, in plays, even at the University of Nairobi, Mr. Speaker. So if he decides to put up a play, it is not the place of the whip to call him out on putting up a PR show, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy President is very serious about supporting the talents in this country. Only a few days ago, Mr. Speaker, the Deputy President was there for the launch of the Bahati show, Mr. Speaker. We might have had a continuation of the same show on the side, on the runway of at JKI, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I was seeking to find out if the whip is in order to take a mickey at very serious professions, the profession of PR and public relations, the profession of actors, and even the people who chase clout for content, Mr. Speaker, for TikTok, are also doing a serious job, Mr. Speaker. So I would want you to find the whip out of order totally, Mr. Speaker, for deviating from the issues as you directed. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members, honorable KJ. The act of a Deputy President towing a travel bag on the runway is not a display of talent. And it cannot be. Yes, Osoro, wind up.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand guided, and I'll not delve into the conduct of His Excellency Deputy President. But Honorable Speaker, nothing stops any member of this House from bringing the conduct of His Excellency Deputy President, especially when it's a shame to the country, Honorable Speaker. But if it's a reality show, as Honorable KJ has said, then I think it's important for us to appreciate him and say reality shows pay, and the young people have also shown that clearly reality shows are paying. And in fact, people are saying even TikTok pays. And the very first time I saw that video, Honorable Speaker, His Excellency Deputy President towing the bag was actually on TikTok.
Honorable members, reduce your consultations. Wind up.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. So generally, Honorable Speaker, what I'm saying is that members, any public officer, any public servant, Honorable Speaker, right from the top, His Excellency the President, downwards, to all those people that have been given the privilege to serve in this country, should be careful on the utterances they make and their conduct in public. And it's at this point sometimes, Honorable Speaker, that we ask whether clearly NCIC is operational. Because at this point, we should be seeing the Governor for Nyeri being summoned and questioned for his utterances against a certain community and profiling some communities as lesser human beings, Honorable Speaker. And we should also be seeing, the people raising questions on Chapter 6 of the conduct of even some members, senior members of the executive, on how they carry themselves in public. But to also applaud the Deputy President, Honorable Speaker, and appreciate him for deciding to spend less, and use a commercial flight to Mombasa. That is now what we want. That is how we move around. That he is able now to pay.
Zamzam, wind up.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Na mimi nataka nielezee wabunge wenzangu mambo yanayotendeka si mambo ya kucheka. Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi tunajua majukumu ya naibu wa rais. Na hata kama leo pengine Mheshimiwa Spika wewe pia ungefanywa hivyo, tungesimama hapa kuweza kukutetea, kwa sababu kuna bajeti ambayo imewekwa na tumemuona mara kadhaa akilalamika kuwa ndege imemwacha, ameambiwa sijui kuna hivi na vile. Kwa hiyo kuna shida katika taifa letu, na mimi naomba ikiwezekana Mheshimiwa Rais na Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Rais waweze kukaa chini, haya matatizo yaishe, kwa sababu Kenya ni yetu sisi sote. Na hata alivyoongea yule governor wa kule Nyeri, amezungumza makosa, kwa sababu ugavi wa rasilimali unafaa uende sawa katika taifa nzima, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na kama alikuwa anataka kutetea pengine naibu wa rais, asingetumia matamshi yale, kwa sababu yanazidi kuleta sintofahamu. Kama ile mashini ya miwa kule ilikuwa ni haki wao kupewa fidia kuweza kuregesha ule mtambo wa miwa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini kwa yote ile pia sisi kumuona katika ndege ambao ni abiria wa kawaida bila hata security, Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa inatatiza ile image ya taifa la Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mimi naomba, na nimeona hata wabunge katika mikutano wakizungumza, wakirusha cheche za maneno. Wakati huu wa Kenya wana matatizo, bidhaa zinapanda juu. Inafaa wakati huu tuwe tunaongea juu ya finance bill, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini tetesi ambazo zinakuja katika taifa hili wakati huu ni vipi deputy president anatembea, naibu wa rais ametembea na begi, sijui imekuwa vipi. Kama kuna matatizo, mimi naomba hasa wale ambao wako upande wa mrengo ule, sisi tulizoea matatizo yetu, manake tulipigwa mkatucheka na sasa kimewaramba. Lakini yote tisa muweze kukaa chini, muweze kutatua matatizo yenu. Hata mkimshika leo spika wa bunge hili, kwa vile yuko mrengo ule, nione mtu anamletea na ile haki zake za kimsingi anapokonywa, kama mama Zamza, mtasimama nitazungumza, kwa sababu akipatikana yeye leo, kesho mwingine atafanziwa hivyo. Tumeona hata kule kwa rais aliyostaafu kumetokea pia tetesi. Mambo haya yanafaa yakae chini, kila mmoja apate haki yake, na tuangalie sasa maslahi ya Wakenya. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Mkunji.
Honorable Speaker, I want to weigh on this issue, and I want to be very careful. Honorable Speaker, almost everybody who is speaking on this issue is my senior in politics and my senior in many of the things that we are doing. But Honorable Speaker, I feel that I need to put in a perspective of a newcomer in politics of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, while I really don't know how this country will be in a few years, I feel like we are changing tune and we are coming out in a way that we can even mess our democracy. Honorable Speaker, I want to call upon our senior leaders to embrace speaking in the rooms, and then they come out to tell us in very clear terms what is happening and what is going in the country, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was also very worried when I saw the Deputy President carrying his own bag. And I felt sad because if I was there, I could have carried for him the bag.
Was he carrying or towing?
He was carrying the bag, Honorable Speaker. And it looked like a bag that wouldn't fit even in the carrier side of the plane. And Honorable Speaker, I feel this is something that the majority leader must clarify to this House. Why would we have the Deputy President carrying a bag in a commercial flight? And Honorable Speaker, I also feel we are getting into the conversation of how to save on costs. And we need to embrace what the Deputy President has brought aboard, that we should be able to travel together with our colleagues who are not senior members of our society. But Honorable Speaker, we have bigger problems to think about. And Honorable Speaker, I want to say that in our community, Embu, right now we are reeling with a lot of poverty because of the ban of Mogoka, Honorable Speaker. And I feel this House, together with these members, are not doing enough to help us and listen to both sides of the divide so that my people don't die because of poverty, Honorable Speaker, when they were making a living out of this thing. Honorable Speaker, this is serious, and I want to say that we have to know how our people make money and not ignore the fact that they might even mess up their lifestyles. Honorable Speaker, while I'm finishing, I also want to say that reading the standing orders, I'm happy with your guidance that we should not, without a substantive motion, speak about characters of our senior leaders, especially leaders in the caliber of the Deputy President and the President. So we are still learning on how to handle these things, but I would really urge, even us here as members of Parliament, especially from this government side, we need to even have a kamukunji and speak and guide our leaders if they are not guiding us right. And that will really help us as we move on. And I hope the majority leader has heard me. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Jonette? Yes.
Mr. Speaker, this matter that has been raised by Honorable Jared is really a matter of national importance, because we are dealing with the offices of the President and the Deputy President. The presidency. Office of the Presidency is saying, Onjala, the MP for Budalangi. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I watched in the social media the Deputy President carrying a bag in the streets of Jomo Kenyatta. What struck me, Mr. Speaker, in that episode, as somebody who has traveled a lot, is the kind of bag the Deputy President was carrying. That one really struck me. That kind of bag is not for the Deputy President. That bag is for something else. Another thing that struck me in that episode is what was the content of that bag, because the Deputy President could not even give it to his bodyguard. He had to hold it himself in person, Mr. Speaker. What could have contained in that bag, Mr. Speaker? I don't know whether a committee of this Parliament can get to know for us. What is the content of that bag that you cannot even trust with Ngunjiri Wambugu was behind him, that he held for me this bag, Mr. Speaker? I don't know whether Mr. Speaker, those are the two things that struck me in yesterday's episode politically. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, why are we discussing this matter here? The only place that can hold the presidency accountable is Parliament, Mr. Speaker. They are held accountable here, constitutionally. You know, Mr. Speaker, you can hold somebody accountable in the sense that if it is your responsibility to dismiss him from the job he has, then you are the only one who can hold him accountable. It is a clear provision in the Constitution that this is the house that can remove anybody who occupies those offices, Mr. Speaker, and you are a senior lawyer. Mr. Speaker, if what I am seeing, or this trend I am seeing continues, you know very well, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution says a state officer must bring honor, dignity, and respect to the office he's holding. Mr. Speaker, you cannot demean the office you are holding and you expect to attract dignity and respect. Mr. Speaker, let's call a spade a spade. If you want to politic, that is fine. If you want to go and talk in a church, in a public burial place, that is fine. But not to the extent of demeaning the office of the Deputy President. Even the office of Member of Parliament cannot be demeaned, Mr. Speaker. When some of our colleagues misbehave, we take offense. When some of our colleagues here go to burials and behave in a manner that is unbecoming, a manner that a Member of Parliament should not behave, we take offense. We say, no, we talk to them, don't behave that way. As a whip, I guide them in my office. You can't behave like this. I don't know whether the executive has a whip. The whip of the executive now must come in. I don't know whether it is the majority leader who is the whip of the executive. But a majority leader, if somebody is not interested in any job, there are Kenyans who are interested in that job. Why don't you do something? We are here to execute it. There are many Kenyans who can perform. Men and women. And many Kenyans, men and women of high standard and caliber, including, no, I don't qualify because I'm not from Kenya Kwanza. But anybody else is qualified. Mr. Speaker, you know, Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Presidency is a very, very critical office. In our neighboring country, the president today who's running that country was a Deputy President. She was a deputy president of President Magufuli. And today she's a president of the Republic of Tanzania. So that tells you how important that office. That is not the kind of office that can be occupied by somebody who's pulling a trolley in the corridors of Jomo Kenyatta Airport. It's not possible. So, Mr. Speaker, why we are talking as a parliament, because it is here that we discuss matters of concern to the people. And surely, Deputy President pulling a trolley is of matters of concern to the public. The discussion here is, why did he use the Kenya Airways, public transport? That is neither here nor there. The issue is pulling a trolley. The issue here is, are we as a country having the presidency, giving the presidency the kind of respect that it deserves, Mr. Speaker? And I'm not absolving blame from anybody. Anybody who has not done his work, he can be held accountable. But, Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by saying this. Mr. Speaker, people take these offices casually. And somebody thinks that if I become a deputy president, I cannot be held accountable by anybody. A member of parliament will hold you accountable. And the Constitution has given him that provision to hold you accountable. Any member of parliament, by the way, it doesn't matter whether you're Kenya Kwanza or Azimio, any member of parliament can hold you accountable for actions and anything that you speak. I don't want to digress because the speaker has told, let's concentrate on the context. But some of the utterances even are wanting. So, Mr. Speaker, personally as a member of parliament, and you know, some of us, we might not have become deputy presidents, or we may not occupy high offices, but now we are senior members of the country, because some of those people, we have served more terms of parliament than them. They know that. I have been in this parliament more than those people. They know themselves. I don't want to mention names. I am now serving the third term, and people came here one term and sijui jua ilitoka wapi kabulika hawa sasa hawa ni namna hiyo tu, na sisi bado tumebaki tu kama kuku hapa ndani ya town. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say this, that let us respect the offices we are holding. If you have grievances, deal with your grievances in a manner that befits the office you are holding, and don't bring shame to the country. Don't bring shame to our country. And when you want to divide the country and you want to separate people, nobody will accept that. Nobody will allow that. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to say, please, for those people who are very close friends of our friend, please buy him another bag. That bag cannot go on. If next trip, I want to see a better bag. KJ, please. Thank you very much.
Majority Leader, you've heard the concerns of members. Wanjala, what is it? I've given the Majority Leader an opportunity to tell the House the concerns of members, and I want to repeat. Sit down, Wanjala. The conduct of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya is not under discussion here. The issue raised by Jared Okello was very clear. The office of the Deputy President, the whole of the office, as Junet, I think Junetta summarized it very well. Now we want the leader of government business in the House, the Majority Leader, to assure the House and the country that the dignity of the office of the Deputy President is not at stake, and more importantly, that the Deputy President is provided with resources to discharge his duties and responsibilities in a manner that brings honor and dignity to the office. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to, as you have guided, restrict myself to the issues that were raised by the Honorable Jared Okello, without delving much into the issues of whether this was a reality TV show or acting and drama. Honorable Speaker, to confirm to the House and to the country that both the President, the Deputy President, and also the Prime Cabinet Secretary, all Cabinet Secretaries, and indeed, even members of Parliament, are well and adequately provided for in terms of budgetary allocations, including budgetary allocations for travel and staffing in all our respective offices. And Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Jared Okello will bear me witness that last week, only last week on Thursday, Honorable Speaker, we did pass the supplementary appropriations bill, and also we are in the process now of finalizing the appropriations bill of the 2024-2025 financial year. And if any Kenyan looks into the books of accounts of the national government, you will realize that the office of the Deputy President is very well resourced. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, maybe it's good to just put it into perspective because the Honorable Jared Okello has raised the issue. And there are issues that touch on, as you have guided, on the budget of the office of the Deputy President or the presidency, issues that touch on security of the person of the Deputy President and that of the President. And also, Honorable Speaker, what the Honorable Junet has referred to as the honor and dignity that comes with the offices that we all hold, not just the President and Deputy President, but even us as members of Parliament. And Honorable Speaker, in confirming that there are adequate resources, including resources for air transportation, Honorable Speaker, both for fixed airwing, aircraft, for helicopters, and even if the Deputy President opted to travel by sea, there are adequate resources for him to travel by sea, by SGR, or even by coast bus to any other bus, Honorable Speaker. And let me also say, Honorable Speaker, it is not unusual, because I don't know why anybody would think it's unusual for the Deputy President to travel with our national carrier, Kenya Airways. Honorable Speaker, I have witnessed holders of that office in the person of William Ruto, our current president, used not just Kenya Airways. In fact, last week when he traveled to South Korea, he took a commercial airliner to South Korea to and fro. The only difference is that he never posed for any photograph anywhere. I have also witnessed when he was deputy president, William Ruto traveled not just on Kenya Airways, but used jumbo jets to Mombasa, to Eldoret. He has used Skyward and Renegade, and the other, not 540, there's another airline that Air Safari Link to Masai Mara. And therefore, it is not unusual. I think the only unusual thing that happened yesterday, Honorable Speaker, and maybe that may have gotten the attention of the Honorable Jared Okello, was the Deputy President towing a bag, a new bag, brand new bag, as the Honorable Junet says, that could not even fit into the compartments in the aeroplane, towing the bag and posing for a photograph. But unfortunately, I think, Honorable Speaker, on matters touching on security, the Deputy President was also very well secured yesterday, and I can confirm that to the country. He had with him not less than 19 bodyguards, 14 of whom he was to travel with on that aircraft. Therefore, he had no problems with people to carry his bags. Let nobody think that the Deputy President had problems on people to carry his bags. He had not less than 3 photographers to take the photographs, Honorable Speaker.
Majority. Yes, Junet, what's the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I wish to ask the majority leader whether he's correctly saying that a plane that was to carry 60 people, 14 were supposed to be bodyguards of the Deputy President in that plane. Can you tell the Parliament in broad daylight that 14 were members of his security detail out of 60 members, a third of the plane, and cameramen and the other things?
Honorable Speaker, the information I have, the Deputy President did not just appear for the photograph. The Deputy President was driven to the airside with his full security detail, including the presidential guards that guard him from the Wrecker Squad. They were there with him. There were adequate, not less than 14 officers traveling with him on that plane, including photographers, security men, bloggers, protocol people. including the former MP for Nyeri, who I hear is a chief blogger in that office now, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I was just making the point that the Deputy President was not short of staff and personnel to carry his bags, including photographers who are taking those photos, Honorable Speaker, and therefore his security was not in question at all. Two, Honorable Speaker, in terms of the dignity and honor that comes with that office, Honorable Speaker, I think the Deputy President had this flight paid for by the government of Kenya using taxpayers' money. And to give his office the honor and dignity, those who are keen observers did observe he was seated on seat 1A of that flight. The chief blogger in his office, the former member for Nyeri, was seated on seat 2A. That's in the business class, Honorable Speaker. And others, including his security officers, I think 2 are seated in the business class with him, and many others were seated in the economic compartment. And therefore, let me assure the country that the Deputy President within that flight was very safe. There is nothing unusual in him taking commercial flights. Indeed, many of you who attended the National Prayer Breakfast will remember His Excellency the President affirming that out of the austerity measures that government has instituted and which he effected through the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, that his office, that of the Deputy President, and that of the Prime Cabinet Secretary had cut their budgets substantially. And therefore, I only want to encourage the President, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Deputy President, when they travel, to bear in mind those austerity measures, but at least to reduce the delegations, if not anything. I am certain nothing would happen to you when you are up there in the skies. Therefore, 1 or 2 security officers might be adequate. You do not need 3 or 4 photographers to travel with you on that plane. You can send some by SGR or others to drive to Mombasa. Therefore, I want to encourage all our government officers to bear in mind that we are in a tough situation and austerity measures that government has instituted, including Parliament, Honorable Speaker. I was pleasantly surprised the other day when I saw members of Parliament carpooling to travel to Naivasha because they thought it was easier to hold their meeting where they were holding and carpool. And Honorable Speaker, this should be the spirit, Honorable Speaker. But also, Honorable Speaker, more importantly, because I have seen these questions being raised, especially by bloggers, is the Deputy President entitled to use of military aircraft? Honorable Speaker, I did engage the Cabinet Secretary for Defense. And indeed, I have asked, Honorable Speaker, so that we may put this matter to rest, I will be writing to the Cabinet Secretary for Defense to appear before this House in plenary that only the President and the First Lady, the President as Commander-in-Chief, since we don't have a Deputy Commander-in-Chief, has access to military aircraft. The Deputy President has a police aircraft designated for his use, which currently is under maintenance, and the Cabinet Secretary tells me in the next few weeks they will have finalized with its maintenance, because it is not just a police aircraft that is maintained by government, but whenever the Deputy President is flying that aircraft for his safety and security, bearing in mind the office he holds, is usually flown and operated by Kenya Air Force pilots and servicemen, Honorable Speaker, so that we can assure the Deputy President's safety, assure the country of the Deputy President's safety. Honorable Speaker, when the Kenya Kwanza government took over, I am also informed, Honorable Speaker, our defense forces would occasionally allow senior government officers to use their aircrafts at times on request. And ordinarily, government policy is when any senior government officer like the Deputy President or the Prime Cabinet Secretary intends to use a military aircraft, because these aircraft are designated for operational work. by the military to request for use of a particular aircraft, whether it's a helicopter or a Dash 8 or a fixed-wing aircraft, through the office of the head of public service, Felix Kosgei. Honorable Speaker, let me put it on record because I have checked those facts. The day that the Honorable Okello refers to on Madaraka Day, the office of the Deputy President never, because I would not know why he decided to get late. Because either way, you could also choose, like the Honorable Speaker chose, to go and spend the night in Bungoma or in Kisumu and be near the function, or wake up early like many of us did to travel. The same with the incident that the Honorable Jared Okello speaks to this Sunday in Nakuru at the Akorino Church. It is true, the Deputy President arrived over an hour later than the President. The President was magnanimous and courteous enough to be able to receive his deputy. And, Honorable Speaker, I can also confirm, because I was to join you in Laikipia, we left Nairobi at exactly the same time with the Deputy President at about 10:44 a.m. when his chopper was lifting from his current residence. Honorable Speaker, we traveled together. There was a slight challenge with the weather, I can confirm, Honorable Speaker, around Mount Longonot. And we were able to maneuver through within a period that did not exceed 5 minutes. As to why the Deputy President chose to tell the country that he had transport and weather challenges, Honorable Speaker, on the pulpit in church, again, I would not be able to be in a position to tell why the person serving in the office of a Deputy President would choose to tell what is not true while standing at a pulpit in a church, Honorable Speaker. And since, Honorable Speaker, you have guided, we are not here to discuss the conduct of any person. I do not want to dwell into that. But to assure the country that both the President, the Deputy President, the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, from what the Minister for Defense has informed me, may, in writing, ask for use of military aircraft. And, Honorable Speaker, the Defense Cabinet Secretary did inform me that for the last 1 year, the aircraft that were being used by the Deputy President, the Prime Cabinet Secretary's office, and other senior government officers occasioned an expenditure of 500 million shillings, 500 million shillings to KDF. KDF has written to the various offices, and the office of the Deputy President has written back declining to share in the costs of the wear and tear and fuel of these aircraft. And that is why the Kenya Defense Forces and the Ministry of Defense made a policy decision that should any officer want to use military aircraft, it must be on request, since all these offices have resources appropriated to them for air travel. Therefore, if you use a Kenya Defense aircraft for fuel, for wear and tear, you pay for it from the budget in your office. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, should cry foul that they have not been allowed to use military aircraft. Only the President, as Commander-in-Chief, has unfettered access to use of military aircraft, but that aircraft that is designated from the Kenya Police, that is under maintenance, and I must insist, that maintenance, Honorable Speaker, you've seen what has happened in our neighboring country and our compatriots in Malawi, and may the Lord rest the soul of the Vice President of Malawi and the people who perished in the air crash, in internal peace, Honorable Speaker. We would not fathom that happening to any of the officers serving in our government. And you remember, Honorable Speaker, I'm also informed many of those aircrafts, including the ones used by the President, were put to a rigorous maintenance program following the unfortunate incident where we lost our Chief of Defense Forces. And therefore, it is only fair that we allow our military and those who take care of these aircraft to service them and avail them for use by senior government officers when they are in good and serviceable condition, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me, I think I have adequately answered to that. but I want to commit, this is just a preliminary answer to the Honorable Jared Okello. I have since spoken to the Defense Cabinet Secretary and asked him, I'll be writing to him to come and appraise the House as to exactly how senior government officers should move, how secure the aircrafts they are using are, and how often they service them, and any challenges that they may have with those aircrafts, Honorable Speaker. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, let me speak to many people, Honorable Speaker, because I saw a very unfortunate post yesterday on social media by those bloggers who work in those big offices, Honorable Speaker, anticipating the demise or the occurrence of a vacancy in the office of the president. Honorable Speaker, there are things people may do casually and post online. And I remember, Honorable Speaker, when my predecessor, the Honorable Charles Jonjo, was Attorney General and Minister for Constitutional Affairs, he made it treasonable to even imagine the death of a president. We are not in that age, Honorable Speaker. But it's unfortunate that bloggers who work for senior officers of this government can post write-ups on social media, either wishing, anticipating, or praying for the occasioning of a vacancy in the office of the president, and purporting that the deputy president is only an inch away from the presidency should anything happen to the president. Honorable Speaker, these are things we may take lightly. Just as we may take lightly the talk that you referred to by the governor for Nyeri, or indeed the talk about people going to their villages. And I want to agree with Honorable Osoro. These are the kind of things, Honorable Speaker, in 2007, 2008 that led us into the problems that we got into with post-election violence. When people were told to go back to their villages. Honorable Speaker, it is true we all come from villages. But please, when we hold senior government positions, we must grow beyond our villages. We must remember that we bear a greater responsibility to the people of Kenya way beyond our villages. And whatever words we utter out of our mouths, Honorable Speaker, must be words that unite the people of Kenya, not those that create divisions. Because if you create division, Honorable Speaker, you are bringing dishonor. And, Honorable Speaker, dealing a big blow to the dignity that the office you hold would have, Honorable Speaker. Lastly, as I said, Honorable Speaker, over the weekend elsewhere, respect is earned. Respect is earned. Honorable Speaker, there are members of Parliament here who have suffered. Members of Parliament from Nyeri will tell you how much they have suffered. The women rep for Baringo County, if she had an opportunity, Honorable Speaker, she would tell you the unpalatable words that have been used to describe her. Honorable Speaker, and I said, let us earn our respect as leaders. If I demand respect, let me respect the member of Parliament for Baringo County. Let me respect the members of Parliament from Nyeri. Let me respect the members of Parliament from Mount Kenya and across the country.
Who do you want to inform? Madenge.
Yeah?
Majority wind up.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order, Madenge, take your seat.
No, the member for Nyeri, I think, had me mentioning how much they have suffered. Honorable Speaker, maybe I would allow him 1 minute to inform me.
He wanted to inform you. Do you want information?
I would oblige him to inform me.
1 minute, Madenge.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I speak on behalf of the 6 elected members of parliament in Nyeri County. And this also includes both the senator and the women rep. We have really suffered intimidation and blackmail. And it is imperative that as elected leaders, we be allowed the space to execute the mandate that the ordinary people in Nyeri gave us when they voted for us. It is not possible that the people of Nyeri voted for us so that we can follow an individual when that individual goes dancing, drinking Moratina, and eating nyama choma. It is not possible. And it's not even in Nyeri. It is in, the dancing is happening in Honorable Kejori's constituency. We want to speak from the floor of this house and inform the country that respect is two-way. You cannot disrespect us in other constituencies and expect us to maintain the respect that we have accorded you for the last 2 years. Respect is earned. It is not demanded. It is not coerced.
You've made your information.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Wind up. Wind up, majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to end up, Honorable Speaker, by just saying, I was saying, Honorable Speaker, just was the Honorable DMM has said, that as national leaders, let us earn our respect. Let us not demean other leaders. Let us not coerce. Let us not intimidate other leaders. And more importantly, Honorable Speaker, let us not seek to blackmail anybody, whether it's members of parliament, whether it's government institutions, or any other officer serving in government, Honorable Speaker. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, as leader of majority, I have said it elsewhere, and I'll repeat it on this floor, Honorable Speaker. I will never, for the time the Almighty God will give me the opportunity to serve in the office of leader of majority, allow anybody to demean any member of parliament, whether you are in the minority, in the majority, whether you come from the same village with somebody or not. I will never sit back, and I will protect the rights of all members of parliament as their leader and as a leader in this house, Honorable Speaker, because in doing so, I believe I am protecting the dignity of not only this house, Honorable Speaker, and individual members, but the dignity and honor of the people who have elected these members of parliament. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I may commit that I will be writing to the Cabinet Secretary of Defense to answer more substantially to the issues raised by the Honorable Jared Okello.
Thank you. As you do so, the Honorable Minority Leader has requested me to give him a minute on this, and he will be the very last. And take into account what he will say in what you intend to...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I really didn't want to speak to this, but I think it is my duty to raise my voice on such a weighty matter. Honorable Speaker, let me start by saying that it is not in our place as Azimio coalition in the House. It's not part of our responsibility to meddle in the affairs of the executive or to attempt to provide solutions to the executive. But Honorable Speaker, as I said earlier on, there can only be one government for the Republic of Kenya at any one given time. Honorable Speaker, there can only be one government for the Republic of Kenya at any one given time. And therefore, a dysfunctioning government, regardless of who has formed that government, affects every citizen. What we are seeing here is the making of a dysfunctioning government. That is what I have to say first. But second, Honorable Speaker, as students of history, we are told that history repeats itself. First, as a farce, and second, as a tragedy. Honorable Speaker, you will recall what happened in this country in the year 1989 or thereabout, when the then Vice President, Dr. Josephat Njuguna Karanja, was hounded out of office on account of becoming too big, of making fellow leaders to kneel before him. He became a kneel before me Vice President. Honorable Speaker, at one point, he actually purported to be acting to be the acting president when President Moi was around still. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to say who was right or wrong. Likewise, I don't want to say who is right or wrong in the present instance, because I don't belong to Kenya Kwanza. But let me say this. Honorable Speaker, the Kenya Kwanza government has got a duty now to govern. But he also owes Kenyans a duty to give them a functioning government, a functional government. And therefore, anything that can create dysfunction in government must be sorted out as quickly as possible. Honorable Speaker, you know, when a hyena wants to eat its children, he starts saying that they smell like a goat. Honorable Speaker, I don't know who is the hyena here, who is the goat here. But Honorable Speaker, something is definitely not working. Honorable Speaker, from where we sit as Azimio members, we see a situation where the marriage is not working. And if the marriage is not working, the logical thing to do is to separate. So marry another wife. The wife and the husband are not compatible or are no longer compatible. Yes. So the most logical thing to do is to divorce, but start by separating. So if you want us to help you in the process of separation and divorce, then we are willing to do so. We shall offer our free services. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order. Honorable members, wacha tuachie hapo. This matter will end here. Next order. Next order.
Order number 11, Committee of the Whole House.
Order, honorable members, will you be upstanding? We are going into a committee of the whole.
Order. Order, Honorable Undo. They are very happy at... Where are we starting from?
We need to tell them to resume their seats.
Just let them be. What are we dealing with?
Committee.
Where is the bill? Honorable members, we are in the committee of the whole House to consider the Equalization Fund Appropriations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2023.
Clause 3.
Honorable members, I propose that clause 3 of the bill be part of the bill. Chair budget. The chair budget has an amendment to clause 3. Is it Honorable Makali Mulu moving the amendment on behalf of the Chair Budget and Appropriations Committee? There is an amendment by the Chair Budget and Appropriations Committee to clause B, clause 3 of the bill. Honorable members, this is the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill. The bill you spoke at length about yesterday in the afternoon. It's a very crucial bill. I would request
we attend to it. There is an amendment to be moved by the Chair, Budget and Appropriations Committee on Clause 3 to Clause 3 of the bill. May the members who are standing take their seats so that we transact this together and as fast as possible. Honorable Makali Mulu, move on behalf of the chair, please.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I move that Clause 3 of the bill be amended as captured in the order paper. And since we have got very few amendments, Honorable Chair, maybe I can give the details. A, by deleting the words 10,867,400,000 appearing in the opening statement and substituting therefore the words 10,077,400,000. B, in paragraph A, by deleting the words 326,022,000 and substituting therefore the words 302,322,000. And C, in paragraph B, by deleting the words 10,541,378,000 and substituting therefore the words 9,775,800,000. Yes, I beg to move, Honorable Chair.
Honorable members, I propose the question that Clause 3 of the bill be amended as proposed by the Chair, Budget and Appropriations Committee. The Honorable Undo.
Chair, as Dr. Makali Mulu knows the procedure and the practice in this House, he needs to tell us what necessitated the changes. What was it before? Why is it? What is it now? And what has caused the changes? Considering this is a money bill, and the process of moving amendments is clearly stated out in the Constitution, the PFM Act, and our standing order. He needs to tell us what has changed from what was passed in Senate and what we have here. And with those change amount to changing the Senate bill and go to arbitration, we need more information, Chair. As we wait to see, history repeats itself. It has happened here before in this House, and history is repeating itself this time around again. And we are happy.
The Honorable Makali Mulu, you want to explain the effect of the amendment?
Honorable Chair.
Therefore, put the question that Clause 3 of the bill be amended as proposed by the Chair, Budget and Appropriations Committee. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, I now put the question that Clause 3 of the bill be part as amended, be part of the bill. Honorable members, I put the question that Clause 3 of the bill as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clauses 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Honorable members, I propose the question that Clause 4 of the bill Clause 4 be part of the bill. May I repeat, honorable members, I propose the question at clauses 4, 5, 6, 7 of the bill be part of the bill. Honorable members, I now put the question at clauses 4, 5, 6, and 7 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Schedule.
There is an amendment to the schedule. But I propose the question that the schedule be part of the bill. Chair, Budget and Appropriations. Bind. Take it. Directly bind.
Yeah, Honorable Chair, I beg to move that the schedule to the bill be deleted and substituted, therefore, the following new schedule. As captured in the order paper, the importance of this, Honorable Chair, is that now that we have changed the figures above, it is important that we allocate how much money will go for the expenses, for the board, which we call the secretariat, and how much will be allocated to the benefiting counties. So this schedule, Honorable Chair, indicates now, because we've changed the overall figure, then the changes which will be done to align it to the new figures. With those remarks, Honorable Chair, I beg to move.
Yeah, honorable members, I propose the question that the schedule as amended be part of the bill. Honorable members, I propose the question that the schedule be amended as proposed by the Chair, Budget and Appropriations Committee. There appears to be no interest. I now put the question. Yes, the Honorable Undo.
Chair, I just want to note, and the country should know, that this equalization bill, the third schedule, seems to be reveling in tokenism, dropping small things here and there to be seen to be sharing the cake throughout the country, yet the majority of the funds still remain in the so-called marginalized area. And of course, the question we always beg to ask, for how long will they continue claiming to be marginalized? And we just hope and pray that these funds that have been allocated to go to this marginalized area, the moment they are absorbed, let's hope not half of it will find its way back here in Nairobi to build malls and skyscrapers. Thank you, Chair.
The Honorable Dido Russell.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, whereas I support the committee, my concern is if we will continue in this pace, this will not be equalization fund. We must give it another name, because why give a constituency 5 million, 10 million? What do you want it to do? We must put enough money, whether it is going to build schools, hospitals, or roads, or water. Going forward, I think the next schedule of equalization fund, if it will come in this form, in this context, I think many of us are going to fight it on the floor of this House and even in the court of law. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, I now put the question that the schedule be amended as proposed by the Chair, Budget and Appropriations Committee. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable members, I now put the question that the schedule be part of the bill. The schedule as amended be part of the bill. Honorable members, I will put the question again. Order, honorable members. These members could take their seats and discuss from where they are. I put the question that the schedule as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 2.
Honorable members, I propose the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. Honorable members, there being no amendment and no interest on the matter, I put the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Title.
Honorable members, I propose the question that the title be the title of the bill. Honorable members, I put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
Honorable members, I propose the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Honorable members, I now put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover. The Honorable Makali Mulu, on behalf of the Chair, Budget and Appropriations Committee.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of equalization fund, appropriation bill number 2, Senate bill number 30 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Honorable members, I put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Equalization Fund Appropriations number 2 bill, Senate bill number 30 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
Honorable members, the chairperson to report to the House.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Equalization Fund Appropriation number 2 bill, Senate bill number 30 of 2023, and approved the same with amendments.
Honorable members, the mover of the bill to move agreement with the report. Who is the mover of the bill?
Honorable.
Yes, proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report.
I propose. Yeah.
And I also request Honorable Majority Leader, Honorable Kimani Chungwa, to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable members, ordinarily I should put the question, but I will not put the question. The question is deferred to another day. Proceed. Honorable members, next order. We have concluded this debate, and the only thing left is putting the question. So we're now moving to the next order. Next order, honorable members.
Order number 12, motion, report on the consideration of the consolidated fund services expenditure for the supplementary estimates 2 for the financial year 2023-2024 and the budget estimates for the financial year 2024-2025.
Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee on its consideration of the consolidated fund services for the supplementary estimates 2 for the year 2023-2024 and the budget estimates for the financial year 24-25 laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 4th June 2024. Honorable Speaker, this marks the 5th report on the consolidated fund services expenditures presented and deliberated within these chambers. I extend my gratitude to the diligent members of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee for their unwavering commitment in examining the estimates of expenditure under the CFS and for tabling this report for deliberation. Our appreciation also goes to the stakeholders who contributed insights during the committee sessions and to the committee secretariat whose support was instrumental in finalizing this report. Honorable Speaker, the CFS expenditures are obligatory expenditures that are deducted directly from the consolidated funds and are not included in the annual appropriation bill, as stipulated in Article 2217 of the Kenyan Constitution. These are therefore mandatory expenditures and constitute of 1. Public debt servicing expenditures, 2. Pension payments, and 3. Salaries and allowances for independent officers and constitutional commissions, among others. Honorable Speaker, under the CFS expenditures, under supplementary 2 estimates, expenditures will amount to Kenya shillings 1.99 trillion. It will primarily comprise of debt servicing expenses worth Kenya shillings 1.8 trillion, representing 90% of the overall CFS expenditures. Additionally, the CFS expenditures include pension expenditures amounting to Kenya shillings 187.6 billion, which will account for the remaining 10%. Honorable Speaker, for the financial year 24-25, total CFS expenditures are projected to amount to Kenya shillings 2.06 trillion. The CFS expenditures will be composed of debt servicing expenditures worth Kenya shillings 1.83 trillion and pension, salary, allowances, and other miscellaneous expenditures worth Kenya shillings 203.6 billion. The committee also observed that the cost of domestic debt that continues to drive CFS expenditures by accounting for 61% of the total CFS expenditures. Honorable Speaker, in general, the CFS expenditures therefore constitute the largest expenditure component of the national government spending. It underscores the necessity to strengthen the National Assembly's oversight capacity over these expenditures to ensure transparency and accountability. Furthermore, Honorable Speaker, it also highlights the ongoing fiscal challenges confronting the nation, stressing the importance of designing and implementing strategies to lower these expenses. Therefore, maintaining fiscal discipline, adhering to the fiscal consolidated trajectory, and freeing up fiscal space for key development investment has never been more crucial. These steps should aim to stimulate sustainable economic growth rates exceeding 10%. Honorable Speaker, the committee noted a projected improvement in the fiscal deficit between financial year 23-24 to financial year 24-25 from 5.6% of GDP to 2.9%. Achieving a lower deficit to GDP ratio is vital for sustaining fiscal health, ensuring economic stability, attracting investment, and securing better economic prospects for subsequent generations. Despite this positive outlook, it's vital to remain realistic and diligently pursue this target, even if it requires rigorous fiscal discipline. Honorable Speaker, in this context, reducing expenditure on public debt service is essential. These expenditures, which on average constitute 88% of CFS expenditures, indicate an escalation in largely non-productive expenditures causing liquidity constraints and increasing vulnerability to macroeconomic shocks. Honorable Speaker, total debt service expenditures are projected to reach Kenya shillings 1.8 trillion in the financial year 23-24 and Kenya shillings 1.85 trillion in the financial year 24-25, underscoring the increasing inflexibility of our fiscal structure. This is illustrated by the interest expenditures for the financial year 24-25, which are anticipated to be Kenya shillings 1.01 trillion, equivalent to 5.6% of our GDP. Tackling this challenge is essential for boosting budget flexibility and enhancing liquidity. Honorable Speaker, beyond fiscal management, effective management of the macroeconomic factors is crucial. The committee observed that the depreciation of the Kenya shillings against the US dollar in the financial year 23-24 led to an increase of up to Kenya shillings 1.2 trillion in external debt stock and over Kenya shillings 300 billion increase in external debt service expenditure. Although this was mitigated by the subsequent appreciation of the Kenya shilling, it highlights the significant cost of implications of some macroeconomic policies. Going forward, fiscal and monetary policies should operate synergistically to mitigate the financial burden of external debt and reduce interest costs. Honorable Speaker, a thorough review of the debt operations and the CFS expenditures is also warranted. In the financial year 23-24, the National Treasury became the primary debtor for the debt owed by Kenya Airways PLC. According to supplementary 2 estimates, the guaranteed debt of Kenya Airways PLC was integrated into the main external public debt stock for the financial year 23-24. The interest and the principal payment for this new loan are projected to be Kenya shillings 14.3 billion in the financial year 23-24 and Kenya shillings 20.9 billion financial year 24-25, with further payments of Kenya shillings 21.3 billion and Kenya shillings 10.7 billion expected in the financial year 25-26 and financial year 26-27 respectively. Honorable Speaker, the committee noted that this resulted in additional financial commitments without corresponding assets, thereby increasing the financial burden. We would like to emphasize that just because these expenditures are a direct charge to the consolidated fund do not require appropriation, they are not exempted from oversight by the National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, there is an overall necessity to establish laws, protocols, and standards to oversee CFS expenditures, given that they currently represent the most substantial government outlays and are expected to maintain this status in the foreseeable future. The committee has observed absence of provisions within the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, specifically regulating CFS expenditures. Despite this significance, this gap poses a loophole in their management. The committee will take necessary action to address this issue, ensuring the involvement and input of all stakeholders in the process. Honorable Speaker, this process should be backstopped by enhancement of the National Assembly standing orders to set adequate procedures to ensure that the National Assembly remains on a proactive stance in the review of these rising expenditures. Honorable Speaker, after our deliberations on the estimates of the consolidated fund services under both the supplementary estimates 2 for the financial year 23-24 and financial year 24-25 and consultation with various stakeholders, the committee therefore gives the following recommendations for consideration by the House. 1, that within 60 days of the adoption of this report, the National Treasury should conduct a comprehensive review of all CFS expenditures to identify areas where spending can be reduced or made more efficient and prioritize expenditures that directly contribute to national development goals and critical government functions. 2, that upon adoption of this report, the National Treasury and Central Bank of Kenya should undertake quarterly macroeconomic reviews in order to ensure that fiscal and monetary policies operate synergistically to mitigate financial burden of external debt and reduce interest cost. The result of these deliberations should be submitted to the National Assembly within 15 days of the end of each quarter. 3, that the National Treasury should undertake a review of the cost of overdraft facility and submit a report to the National Assembly within 30 days of the adoption of this report. The report should review the use of the facility, the cost structure of the overdraft facility, and make proposals to manage and reduce interest payments. 4, that the National Treasury should submit regulations to the National Assembly within 90 days of the adoption of this report that will guide the use of the overdraft facility. 5, that within 60 days of the adoption of this report, the National Treasury should submit to the National Assembly a comprehensive report of the use of the Kenya shillings 200 billion allocated for the redemption of Treasury bills shortfall for the financial year 23-24. 6, that the National Treasury should, within 30 days of the adoption of this report, submit to the National Assembly the full details, including contracts between itself and all parties that resulted in the assumption of Kenya Airways PLC guaranteed debt. 7, that within 30 days of the adoption of this report, the National Treasury should undertake an impact assessment of the assumption of the debtor responsibilities for Kenya Airways PLC guaranteed debt and submit a report to the National Assembly covering the cost-benefit analysis of the transaction to the country. 8, that within 30 days of the adoption of this report, the Kenya Airways PLC should submit to the National Assembly a realistic and comprehensive report on its turnaround strategy and measures in place to replenish the public resources utilized in the payment of the guaranteed debt, cash bailout, and expenses relating to the debt assumed by the National Treasury. 9, that the National Treasury should submit to the National Assembly an appropriate draft legislation to regulate the expenditures under the Consolidated Fund Services by the end of quarter 3 for the financial year 24-25. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu to second. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Chair. The Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity. And as I second this motion, I want to appreciate our committee members, Honorable Speaker, for the good work they are doing to make sure that the Consolidated Fund Services expenditure are properly oversighted. The report, which has been moved by my chair, Honorable Speaker, captures both supplementary and the 2024-25 estimates. But I would want to spend much more time on the 24-25 CFS expenditures, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, to put things into perspective, you realize that, Honorable Chair, from what my chairman has said, this country is projected to spend 1.83 billion for purposes of servicing our debt. And out of that figure, we'll be spending 1.01 trillion to pay interest, and the rest will be redeeming the loans which you have taken. Honorable Speaker, just to appreciate the magnitude of this problem, I have to provide these details. When you look at the projected revenue for the coming financial year, Honorable Speaker, we project to collect about 2.9 trillion ordinary revenue. And because issues of debt are always there to finance the deficit, if you look at the total amount which is going to be used to pay for our debts against the total projected revenue collection, which is 2.9, we are saying, Honorable Speaker, 62% of our ordinary revenue will be going to debt repayment. To make it easier, Honorable Speaker, For every 100 shillings we are going to collect next financial year, 62 will be going to pay debts, and we will only be remaining with that 8 to take care of all the other government expenditures. Honorable Speaker, we all know debt repayment is a first charge to the CFS, which means you pay before you think about anything else. When you look at the interest we are paying, Honorable Chair, we are paying the interest of 1.01 trillion in form of interest. That amounts to 55 shillings, 55% of the total projected revenue, which means for every 100 shillings we'll be collecting, Honorable Speaker, 55 will be going to pay for interest, not even the loan, interest. So when you look at this scenario, Honorable Speaker, you realize that the SFS expenditures, the CFS expenditures, have become such a huge expenditure to a level that it must be of concern to this country. Because this kind of amounts being used to pay for debt are making our fiscal space very inflexible, so that the government doesn't have much space to factor in other expenditure items. And that's why we are saying as a committee, Honorable Speaker, that it is very important this House takes matters public debt very seriously. And that's why I agree with my chairman when he says, despite the fact that these expenditures are not appropriated by this House, it doesn't mean that then we don't oversight them. And that's why I want to urge this House to support 2 recommendations which have been made by this committee, that we need a very clear, detailed legal framework in terms of how to oversight public debt or the CFS expenditures. And at the same time, Honorable Speaker, we also need a very detailed regulatory framework, which will support now the legal framework, so that this issue of debt repayments is properly oversighted. And Honorable Speaker, the issue of the overdraft, which is a facility available at the central bank. I think my chair has said, from our analysis, we are getting worried as a committee in terms of how that facility is being used. When you look at the fact that in the proposed budget, we have factored in some 200 million to pay for that. So we are saying, Honorable Speaker, it is important that also the overdraft facility is taken care of. Honorable Speaker, there is a matter of Kenya Airways. I can see I'm really like sure, but the issue of Kenya Airways, the national government has taken over the guaranteed debt which has been incurred by Kenya Airways. And as a committee, we are worried that this debt, which belongs to Kenya Airways, the national government has taken it, but it is not clear how Kenya Airways will be able to compensate Kenyans for this loan which will be paid by taxpayers. And so that there's a bit of not very clear how things have been done. And as a committee, we are recommending that we need to get all the details so that we are able to help the House appreciate how these agreements have been signed. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to beg to second and say that it's time issues of public debt are properly.
I noticed that you've run out of time, the Honorable Doctor, but I will give you an additional 5 minutes. Is that enough for you? Or you want 10 minutes? 10. That's okay. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I really appreciate, Speaker, because I think there are 2 or 3 things I would want to say which are very important. Honorable Speaker, I was talking about the issue of the overdraft facility at the central bank, where the national government is being allowed by law to draw about 5% of their outed revenue to take care of cash flow management. And we have realized, Honorable Speaker, despite the fact that we have budgeted for about 200 million to take care of payments relating to bonds and treasury bills, in addition to that, the National Treasury is also using the overdraft facility. And from our assessment as a committee, Honorable Speaker, we are saying this House needs to take much more time, pay much more attention in terms of how this overdraft facility is being used, Honorable Speaker, so that we ensure that there is accountability. The other matter which is critical, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of the Kenya Airways guaranteed debt. You realize, Honorable Speaker, when any parastatal takes money, a loan, the loan is always guaranteed by Treasury, and this is by law.
So what has happened is Kenya Airways incurred a debt by taking a loan. Over time, they have been struggling to pay this loan. And what has happened is the National Treasury has been bailing them out over time. Now, this time what the National Treasury has done, they have taken over the total loan, which means now, when you look at our public debt register, that loan is captured as a national government loan. Now, when we analyze that situation, Honorable Speaker, we don't find details as to how will Kenya Airways be able to compensate the public, the taxpayer, for this money, which will now be paid by taxpayer as we move to the future. So this is an area we are demanding as a committee that we need to get proper details from the National Treasury, how this matter has been transacted. And I think, Honorable Speaker, as a committee, we have also requested our legal officers from Parliament to give us a legal input in terms of how this transaction was conducted, so that we make sure as a committee, we Kenyans don't lose any money through this kind of transactions. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, because you've already done me a favor to add me a few minutes, I want to say this. When you look at the pensions, Honorable Speaker, it's also a matter where we are putting a lot of money to the pensions. And I think it is important, Honorable Speaker, to note that this House always appropriates itself for the pensions. Our call and our demand as a committee, Honorable Speaker, and as a House, it is important that the National Treasury ensures that our pensioners are paid their dues in a timely manner. Because we have seen some of them die because there is delayed payment. We have seen their families being taken through very long procedures and unnecessary delays where even their children drop out of school. It is time they get timely payment, so that as a result of that, Honorable Speaker, then they benefit from this pension. The last one is the matter for commissioners, Honorable Speaker. The CFS expenditures, Honorable Speaker, include payments to the retired presidents, the current president, and the deputy president. Honorable Speaker, it's public knowledge that we have seen this exchange between the current, what is happening currently, where the former president seems to be facing challenges. I think as a House, Honorable Speaker, the relevant committee should be able to take up this matter and question why the fact that money is being approved by the Parliament and is not being released to the relevant officers. We know there are challenges of exchequer release, but it is important that this House ensures we monitor budget implementation. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to second, and thank you very much for the time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Members, there is a procedure in which business is transacted on the floor of the House. And that procedure cannot be skipped. Honorable Oyembaya, you are conversant with that because you are a leader in the House. Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House adopts the second report of the Public Investments Committee on Social Services, Administration, and Agriculture. No. Order, honorable members. Yes, order, honorable members. I now propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee on its consideration of the Consolidated Fund Services for the supplementary estimates 2 for the year 2023-2024 and the budget estimates for the year 2024-2025 laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, the 4th of June, 2024. Yes, the Honorable MP for Funyula. Matter is open for debate now.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As I stand here again to support the report, allow me to make 2 or 3 comments from the word go. Supplementary budgets of whichever way you look at it, is a case of poor planning, is a case lack of oversight, is a case of imprudent management of public resources. Should only happen in very exceptional circumstances, and looking through the report here presented, there hasn't been any exceptional circumstances that might have warranted this particular supplementary bill, other than the change in the exchange rate between the dollar and the Kenyan shilling, that should only probably a valid matter. And then in any case, any serious economist ought to have foreseen that this scenario was likely to obtain and made relevant mitigation measures in preparing the budget or the appropriation estimates for this particular line of expenditure. Honorable Speaker, CFS is shrouded in mystery, so to speak. We don't appropriate here, and therefore we have no tools to oversight and monitor its expenditure. And that's why I totally agree with the committee that we must move with speed to put into place legislative measures or legislative mechanism that allow objective, qualitative, and comprehensive oversight of the fund. Honorable Speaker, it is indeed baffling that our loan repayment keeps on ballooning each financial year. Yet the so-called Kenya Kwanza government came into power on the understanding that reduce borrowing. Indeed, estimates that have been bandied around and the figures published by Central Bank indicates the opposite. And that's why we'll continuously remain in the big hole and will not get out of it. Honorable Speaker, again, the second issue that we need to be very careful, and I want to challenge the committee on public data and privatization that handles CFS to basically have a thorough audit of this account. It is on record that the Control of Budget reported, and it was widely reported, that whatever is indicated to be her remuneration in the estimates or in the accounts was far much higher than what she was actually being paid. So that begs the question, how transparent is it in the management of this particular account? Honorable Speaker, you have heard for the last 3 days, the fourth president, the former president, has lambasted, has complained and has cried that he has not been paid pension, has not been facilitated to operate his office. So the question we beg asking, where is the money that is supposed to be in consolidated fund services go to? Honorable Speaker, you meet teachers, you meet civil servants. Many of them have retired. Some have stayed for 10 to 6 years without getting their pension. So the question we beg to ask, where does this money go to? What happens? And every year we appropriate money to the CFS. Why can't we pay the retirees their pension, their gratuity? Some of them are languishing all over here. You find even former senior ministers, senior government officials. They have tarmacked in this town until the sole of their shoes are worn out, looking for pension. Yet every financial year we appropriate these funds. Honorable Speaker, I can see my time is running out. The question, and we beg to ask of Kenyans, for how long shall the country carry Kenyans? If they cannot even provide a member of staff to help the deputy president carry his handbag, for how long shall we continue carrying Kenyans? Is it not time that we win Kenyans from dependence on the national resources, or we make it nationalized Kenyans so that we carry it as a part of our critical assets as they pride themselves, as the pride of Africa? I concur, and I want to say strongly with the policy recommendations of the committee, and I hope they'll have the temerity and the authority to follow up to the implementation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The MP for Imurwa Dikir, John Ngeno. I don't see him in the house. Madam Zamzam Chimba, Mombasa, Member of Parliament.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kuchangia mada hii ya leo ya bajeti supplementary. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimepitia karatasi hii naangalia, na ningependa kusema kuwa Mheshimiwa Spika, kila siku twapitisha bajeti. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, hatuoni pesa zinakwenda wapi Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, juzi pia nimekuwa na walimu. Walimu licha ya kuwa kuna bajeti ambao wamewekewa kama pesa zao za retire, wamewekewa pesa zao za kama wale ambao wanalipwa katika city allowances, wale walimu ambao wamewekwa wameongezwa juzi Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, walimu wanalia hawapati marupurupu yao Mheshimiwa Spika, na si wao tu, hata tunaona wafanyikazi wa serikali wengi, Kenya Railways na wengine, pesa zimewekwa katika bajeti za kuwapa zile retirement zao na ile marupurupu yao ya kila mwezi Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini hawapewi Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, katika kamati yangu ya implementation tumetamaushwa sana kuangalia 2.5 billion imekatwa katika feeding program ya watoto Mheshimiwa Spika. Na tunajiuliza pesa zinaongezwa katika sehemu zingine ambazo si za muhimu, lakini sehemu ambazo ni muhimu Mheshimiwa Spika wamenyimwa kupewa pesa Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona hata hizi drama ambazo zafanyika kwenye mitandao Mheshimiwa Spika. Kuna makadirio katika bajeti wameweka katika ofisi ya naibu wa rais, wengine zimewekwa katika ofisi kadhaa Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini mambo ambayo tunayaona, kwa mfano hata yale makadirio yaliyowekwa katika ofisi ya mstaafu rais mstaafu, wametoka wazi wakasema hawapawi haya mapeni Mheshimiwa Spika. Hawapawi pesa za fuel, hawapawi pesa za kurana ofisi zao Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati ambapo mapeni haya yaliwekwa kwenye makadirio na inafaa wao wanapewa pesa hizi Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi nataka niwaulize tu wale ambao wanapanga bajeti, wahakikishe kuwa bajeti ikifanywa hizi funds lazima zifuatiliwe, zionekane kuwa zimeelekezwa kwa wale walengwa Mheshimiwa Spika. Haiwezekani walimu watakuwa wanatatazika katika marupurupu yao. Haiwezekani, hata tumeangalia airport zetu Mheshimiwa Spika ziko katika hali duni, na ukiangalia bajeti inawekwa Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo yaonyesha kuna mfuko mahali umetoboka Mheshimiwa Spika, unaramba hizi pesa Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimeangalia pia hata katika mambo ambayo tumezungumza awali ya equalization fund, miaka 8 Garissa iko pale pale na pesa zilikuwa zimekadiriwa. Ukiangalia Wajia watu wanahangaika, hakuna stima, hakuna maji, hakuna hospitali, na makadirio ya bajeti yaliweka haya mapeni Mheshimiwa Spika. Kuna uwezekano mkubwa kuwa hizi pesa Mheshimiwa Spika hazielekezwi kwa walengo. Kuna mtu mahali ambao yafanya makatafunua Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mimi napenda kuelezea hivi, in as much as samahani Mheshimiwa Spika, hata kama tunaweza kuweka bajeti Mheshimiwa Spika, tuhakikishe kuwa zinafikia wale walengwa Mheshimiwa Spika, ili hata mgao ukija nijue Wajia wako sawa, Garissa wako sawa, Kwale wako sawa, Mombasa wako sawa, na haya makadirio yafikie wale walengwa Mheshimiwa Spika. Ni aibu sana kumuona raisi ama naibu wa rais anazunguka na mabegi kwenye ndege za abiria wa kawaida, wakati ambapo kwenye makadirio ya bajeti ana bajeti yake Mheshimiwa Spika. Ni aibu tukiona mambo haya yanatendeka kwa wakati huu Mheshimiwa Spika, na kama mama Mombasa nasema tukiweka makadirio ya bajeti tuhakikishe inafikia walengwa Mheshimiwa Spika. Asante sana.
Honorable Nzengu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Even as I support the committee or the committee report, Mr. Speaker, I agree with the rest, my previous speakers, and I want to pick on the matter of the issue of the supplementary budget, where the budget deficit, rather than decreasing, was increased from 887 billion to 920 billion. And Mr. Speaker, it was reported that the budget rationalization was actually to take care of, of the deficit. Yet we see that the recurrent expenditures was reduced in most of the ministerial department and state departments. Yet the overall deficit was increased. Mr. Speaker, this is just to sound an alarm that I think Parliament, we need to be more serious on interrogating the actual expenditure. Are we getting our priorities wrong? Because if the recurrent expenditure is reduced, yet the overall budget deficit is increased, then there is an issue of concern. The other issue of concern is, of course, the amount of revenue that we expect to collect vis-a-vis the amount of money that is being paid in terms of debt, especially the fact that we are paying almost 1 trillion in terms of interest. Mr. Speaker, this is also something that our attention must be drawn to and ask ourselves, because we are reading every day that the government is borrowing more money every other time. What are the terms of the loans that we are borrowing today compared to what has been borrowed in the past? And Mr. Speaker, my last contribution on this is about Kenya Airways. I think it's a shame that Kenya Airways is supposed to be a commercial entity or commercial airline like any other that is supposed to be competing in the market with other airlines. But when you look at Kenya Airways, every other time we have to appropriate money, and now it has been reported that the Kenya Airways loan has been taken as a national loan, and it's no longer a loan for Kenya Airways, but a loan for the Kenyan people. And Mr. Speaker, when you look at even the pricing for Kenya Airways, it is not even cheaper, it is not subsidized. So you don't understand why Kenya Airways is charging commercial rates for the tickets, yet it is not able to compete with other airlines like Ethiopian Airlines. So I think this is not a good practice, and I agree with the committee that something has to be done to look into whether there is a foreplay or some bad business practices that are being conducted at Kenya Airways. I support, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Wangwe, followed by the Honorable Kimilu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this report by the Committee on Public Debt and Privatization and under the Estimates 2, Supplemental Estimates 2 and Financial Year 2024-25. Honorable Speaker, what is very peculiar in terms of numbers is what I would want to look at. And Honorable Speaker, you look at the overall expenditure in the Supplementary 2 being 1.99 trillion. And in the final estimates, Honorable Speaker, the report puts it at 2 trillion. Similarly, Honorable Speaker, the servicing of the public debt in the supplementary rises it to 1.8, and in the estimates, Honorable Speaker, it pushes it upwards to 1.83. What does it speak, Honorable Speaker? It means we are going to rely purely in future on the drawings from the consolidated fund services. A scenario, Honorable Speaker, which in the Kenyan Constitution gives the administration of the day the authority to do that, but Honorable Speaker, it is subject to likely an abuse and also not to have a correctional assessment, especially from an external house. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the 12th Parliament that in its wisdom thought it wise to separate, Honorable Speaker, this committee from the Committee on Budget. Initially, this report used to be an annexure to the Committee on Budget, but now it's coming as a standalone. What I'm interested, Honorable Speaker, to highlight also is the observations that, Honorable Speaker, have been revealed in this report. And Honorable Speaker, basically I would want to single out the issues that have been highlighted, particularly touching on Kenya Airways. And Honorable Speaker, this report almost appears to have gone in detail on what is bedeviling the country. Is it that consolidated fund services have only affected the Kenya Airways, Honorable Speaker? The answer is no. Allow me to speak, Honorable Speaker, as the chairperson of the Public Investment Committee on Social Services, Administration and Agriculture, where some of the parastatals, Honorable Speaker, are receiving repayment of debts from the consolidated fund services. What happens, Honorable Speaker, is that the National Treasury responds to the guarantees that it has committed this country against any external, the lenders, Honorable Speaker. But the question that comes about is, one, were these items delivered, Honorable Speaker? 2, were these items delivered within the prices that could otherwise have been competitive? Honorable Speaker, most of the time, the answer is no. Most of the time, Honorable Speaker, 2 agencies, Honorable Speaker, we visited, and the delivery of services have been wanting. Honorable Speaker, the issue of pricing has been wanting. It is made, Honorable Speaker, the supplier-driven rather than the consumer-driven, Honorable Speaker. What does it speak to the spending in terms of prudency or financial management, Honorable Speaker? It leaves us exposed. It leaves us, Honorable Speaker, unable to account for what taxpayers have put into the consolidated fund as national revenue, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, it's important, and I want to thank the committee, Honorable Speaker, for highlighting Kenya Airways, particularly having, Honorable Speaker, that the National Treasury undertook the guaranteeing and eventually has gone ahead to settle the payment. But the committee, Honorable Speaker, has made a writing that in 30 days upon adoption of this report, Honorable Speaker, they would want certain reports to be filed by the National Treasury to respond to the issues that, Honorable Speaker, that might have arisen towards this debt. And Honorable Speaker, this is commendable because many a times you find, Honorable Speaker, there is a lot of laissez-faire administration in Kenya Airways staff, just because, Honorable Speaker, it is not competitive driven. Rather, they have somewhere to lean on and say, if the airline comes down, Kenyans will pay for them. If airline doesn't work, they have somewhere to hold their shoulders. Mine, Honorable Speaker, is to say that their days are gone. We must look at what is happening within not only Kenya Airways, Honorable Speaker, but now that the report speaks to Kenya Airways, we want to be specific. But I would have wished the Committee on Public Debt, Honorable Speaker, to extend its phalanges, Honorable Speaker, and look at other parastatals equally, so that it is not just a matter of Kenya Airways, but let us have the general prudence management of public resources. Let the National Treasury address itself, Honorable Speaker. It even goes to an extent, Honorable Speaker, that some reports, if you are called upon to get them from National Treasury, they could not be there, Honorable Speaker. There could be no commitment documentations between themselves and the external suppliers. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, it's important, and I want to thank the committee in full that this report, if
you want 1 additional minute? Proceed with 1 additional minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you for adding me some 2 more minutes. I would want to comment the committee, Honorable Speaker, and say if this report, if it's well taken into consideration the way it is, and I wish to call upon the Committee on Implementation to follow up on this report, Honorable Speaker. That is what Kenyans need to see, because there has been a tendency, Honorable Speaker, that this seeking of these reports is an exercise in futility. But thank God to this committee, Honorable Speaker, that at least we now have an independent committee to bring such substantive motions before the House, so that all of us can interrogate and look at the detail of what transpired and how are they looking at the future. Honorable Speaker, looking at the report, the recommendation number 8 of this report, which seeks that let them give us the strategy, the measures, and how they intend to analyze the replenishment of the public resources utilized in the repayment of the guaranteed debt. Honorable Speaker, that report in itself, that recommendation itself, Honorable Speaker, will have to allow the National Treasury to give us the entire latitude on how they relied on to make sure that they paid from the consolidated fund all this that is owed to Kenyans. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, I want to support this report and thank the committee for producing such a wonderful report. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg support.
The Honorable Kimilu is not around. The Honorable Rosabuya. Rosabuyu. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity, but I'm disappointed that you didn't quite get my name right.
Rosabuyu.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you.
I've known that name for more than 20 years.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to be very, very brief.
Thank you.
In support of the committee recommendation. Mr. Speaker, CFS makes the largest share of government spending, and yet without any regulations or laws governing how that money is spent. Mr. Speaker, I support the committee in recommending that laws and regulations must be put in place if we are to know that the country is getting its money's worth. Mr. Speaker, just in the coming year, 2024-2025, we see that 1 trillion is going to be spent on interest alone. Mr. Speaker, we need to know interest on what? And if we do not know that, that is a clear path of having money just spent in whatever way. We know that through this CFS, this is where we draw salaries for independent commissions, we draw salaries for the president, but Mr. Speaker, we also draw salaries for pensions. Then how come we keep on hearing pensioners crying that they have not been paid their pension? Mr. Speaker, this is why I'm in support of what the committee recommends, that we need, as the National Assembly, to oversight the expenditure of CFS. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity.
The Honourable Member for Suna West, Francis Masara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee and recommend them for the job well done. Mr. Speaker, my main concern is about the Kenya Airways. The money which has been injected in this company for a long period of time using public money. And for sure, whatever has been invested, we are not seeing any return to the public. First, I will also request the committee to go ahead and request Kenya Airways to give us the total value of the assets. Because we cannot overinvest money in a company, maybe their total value is more than what we are investing. Two, Mr. Speaker, Treasury need to come out clear on the issue of our debt portfolio. Because at a given point, you realize from the report that they were estimating a huge figure based on the exchange rate. But still, when the value of dollar scales down, still they need a lot of money to finance our debt portfolio. Mr. Speaker, as well, when you realize in the committee recommendation that even themselves, despite Treasury appearing before them and defending their document, they were not certain about what is going to be used by 200 billion, which is allocated for redemption of the Treasury bill shortfall in 2022, 2023, 2024. This is an indicator that there is no transparency in how our debts are being managed. Therefore, I'm supporting the committee on the issue of the creation of the regulation on how our debt portfolio can be managed in this country. Mr. Speaker, as a concerned citizen, I'm also worried. If you look at the percentage given by this committee, when you compare our debt portfolio and in the budget and what is going to be spent on expenditure on development and even recurrent, it is worrying. If we invite a serious economist, it means this our country cannot sustain its own budget. That's the reality. Therefore, it is important these countries make their priorities right. Do we need to continue buying new vehicles? Do we need to continue renovating state house and state lodges with billions? Do we need to spend a lot of money on hospitality? Do we need to refurbish houses which are there? Where do we place our priority right? Mr. Speaker, real leaders, we see their real characters when a country is in a crisis like the way we are now. If I were given full opportunity to govern this country, I would have given a decree that nothing new is being done until we balance between the debt portfolio and our income. Mr. Speaker, if we don't do that, the public will continue paying taxes. The public will continue crying. Yet, with such a picture in place on how much we are paying as debt vis-a-vis development, it means there is no hope for the citizen of this country.
Mr. Speaker, I'm requesting each and every leader to introspect so that we can look for a way forward, so that we can spend less money on things which must be done, which must not be done, and spend money, most of the taxes, on things which must be done. More so, when we are investing, we need to invest a lot on projects which can spur development in this economy. We should not just be investing for the sake of investing, but invest so that the economy can stabilize. Mr. Speaker, finally, I want to request the chairman of the committee not only to propose, but to do a follow-up through the implementation committee so that the recommendation adopted in this house can be realized for the benefit of the people of Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Edith Nyenze, MP for Kitui West.
Thank you, Speaker, for this opportunity to also air my views on the supplementary budget. Let me note that according to the public finance management regulations, it emphasizes that supplementary budgets are exclusively for unforeseen and unaffordable circumstances. Any expenditure that was known at the beginning of before the original budget was finalized, should not be considered as unforeseen. Yet every time we talk of supplementary 1, supplementary 2, and the budgeting keeps on going up and up. Mr. Speaker, let me note that from the consolidated fund, the National Treasury should come up with a comprehensive list of the expenditures to identify areas where spending can be reduced or made more efficient and prioritize expenditures. I'm looking for a time when we will not be borrowing money, when there will be no debt. If we could even do like 2-3 years without borrowing money and then we live within our means, I think some of the problems which Kenyans have would be lessened. Because every time we are collecting a lot of taxes, yet Kenyans have continued to become poorer and poorer. Pensioners have kept on not being paid. Teachers are demanding for their pay. Doctors are crying in the streets. Yet we are overtaxing every time. So Mr. Speaker, what I would want to see a Kenya where we will not borrow any money for at least 2-3 years, where we will live within our means and not overtax the Kenyans, but if it's development, if it's recurrent, we reduce steward imbalances in such a way that we can be comfortable. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I support and say that let's live within our means. Thank you.
The Honorable Ilobara, MP for Kasibundo Kasipundo West. Obara is not around.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, proceed, Madam Obara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and for giving me the opportunity, and let me add my voice to the debate. Mr. Speaker, we know that the consolidated funds receipts are derived from our domestic and external resources. And we know very well that the resources are from the taxes that are collected by the Kenya Revenue Authority, being the principal tax collector, agent of the government, and remitted to the consolidated fund. Mr. Speaker, this matter has been with us for many years of poor management of our resources. Mr. Speaker, in 2013, if I can recall, the government that came in at that time came out with a comprehensive list of institutions that had borrowed so much money that were no longer solvent, or they were insolvent. And as we speak today, those same institutions are still existing, consuming funds that are not generating any results. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the committee's report, which I support, the committee is coming out clearly and saying that in Kenya, we have a very clear policy on how to manage, for one, the overdraft facility. And these organizations, Kenya Airways included, have borrowed against the policy. But nothing, there are no sanctions, there is nothing that is happening to them. So I'm happy to see that the committee is coming up with a recommendation that the National Treasury should submit regulations to the National Assembly within 30 days of the adoption of this report on the overdraft facility. Yes, the National Treasury should come out with, but these policies, Mr. Speaker, are there. You've been in service for many years. You know very well these things are there, and we just need to come and polish them down. But still, year in, year out, we are still talking about it. I hope this time we are clear about what is happening. Mr. Speaker, again, they're talking about reviewing of all expenditure. We have what is called in this country performance contract. And every year, every quarter of the year, agencies are supposed to go back and review their expenditure in line with the budget that they submitted. And it's there. So again, year in, year out, we are still talking about the same thing, that this is what should happen. And yet those things are there. They are clear that what are you supposed to do to make your organization more efficient and prioritize expenditures that directly contribute to the national development goals and critical functions. Mr. Speaker, not to belabor the point, people have spoken here, our colleagues have spoken. We have what we call debt management office. Are we putting it into use? Do we read those reports that they generate? We don't. And then again, we still come back. So the ball stops with us. It is here with us that we are the ones that must ensure that policies that we have put in place to safeguard the resources of the Kenyans, citizens, is taken care of. We are the ones who are supposed to make sure that that happens. The ball is with us in this bunge. Let us make sure this time that the committee recommendations as presented in this report are adopted and fully implemented as is presented here. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and once again I support.
The MP for Migori, for the woman rep for Homa Bay, Madam Bensouda, aka whatever.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I also rise, Mr. Speaker, to support the report provided or tabled in this Parliament by the Debt and Privatization Committee. However, when I look into all the recommendations given, they revolve around regulations or frameworks which the National Treasury is supposed to implement and provide. Mr. Speaker, I would, however, deviate a little bit, as my colleague, Honorable Ivo Barras, mentioned that the policies yet exist. The question is, where are the gaps that are still there that this House needs to look into to fill? Mr. Speaker, my point of concern, other than the regulations, yesterday as we were debating on the Equalization Fund, I mentioned categorically that we have a rogue National Treasury. We cannot have a National Treasury which is opaque in its planning, opaque in policy implementation, opaque in executing everything, opaque in what expenditure this country is undergoing, opaque in providing for the reports. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the donkey, that is the country, that is the citizens who are being taxed, are more than tired. Mr. Speaker, I want to recommend or to add my voice onto this report that they are further supposed to go and demand for an annual report on what debts this country owed in terms of development expenditure, what was addressed, what was available, and the tax increment annually. Mr. Speaker, I want to recommend that this House should demand for a 10-year at least chronological order in which the debt management has taken place. Mr. Speaker, I know that there are various suppliers, both local and international, who are crying in this country. Mr. Speaker, there are various industries which have shut down because the debts have not been managed. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I would request the Committee for Debt and Privatization, at the same time as we are looking into the debt management, what about our local suppliers? What about our local contractors? We have huge debts that they have not been paid. Mr. Speaker, I want to register that it is on record that there are even contractors who have died, perished, and left their families in a very bad state because debts are not being managed. Mr. Speaker, my key question is, I know we are waiting for the big monster tomorrow. That is the budget which will be read. I want to say that we are very keen on increasing tax. Tax is being increased heavily. We are talking about we do not want to borrow. I want to say that no one wants to live beyond the means, as has been stated by the Member of Parliament. But the question is, for the last 20 or 30 years, this country has been borrowing. This country has been running. Tax should be increased gradually, systematically, and in a manageable manner. But we realize, Mr. Speaker, that in as much as we are charged with tax payment, exorbitant taxation in this country, debt is still a huge monster. We want to check what is the variability, what is the margin difference between the tax that actually this country is supposed to pay. I want to request the Committee on Debt and Privatization Committee that in as much as we are talking about debt management, policy, regulation, they also need to move around the country. There are actual projects in this country that should be checked as to whether the implementation was really conclusive. Because at times, we may be paying debts also internationally for debts which does not exist. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'm seeing a lot of lack of transparency in the National Treasury. I think it is a high time, as I mentioned yesterday, the National Treasury needs to be swept properly so that we don't have people crying for salaries. We don't have people demonstrating. We are talking of huge debts, yet there are no medicine in our hospitals. Yet the infrastructural facilities in the counties that we have, they are not existing. The roads are not there. We are talking of we are living within our means. The other day, President Yoweri Museveni recommended that let us process our own raw materials so that we have enough money. We cannot be talking of lack of proper strategies of ensuring increased resources in our country to manage our debt, minimize borrowing.
Yeah, MP for Homa Bay is undoubtedly full of enthusiasm and energy. But that, having said that, where is the mover to reply? We don't have any more interest in contributing to this. Proceed, Honorable Dr. Makali, and reply.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the honorable members for their contribution to this important report of the Public and Privatization Committee, Honorable Speaker. One of the things I want to assure the honorable members is that this committee is going to take your comments seriously in terms of ensuring that we follow up the comments. Honorable Speaker, some of the things which have been mentioned by our colleagues and which we are, as a committee, we will make sure that we are on top of them. One of the issues which has just been mentioned by the County MP, Homa Bay, the issue of equity and the issue of value for money, Honorable Speaker. What the honorable member for Homa Bay has said, Honorable Speaker, is that it is time Kenyans got value for the money we are borrowing from our friends, from our other countries, and from our development partners. That issue has been raised many times and is very closely tied to the issue of the debt register, so that we get to know how much has been borrowed, at what rate, what are the repayment terms, and all those things, Honorable Speaker. The issue of equity is where the money is being borrowed for Kenyans, and it's important that the money is also applied with a bit of equity so that there is also equitable distribution of these resources, because at the end of the day, all Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, will be able to pay for that money. The other issue is what Honorable Nyenze has raised. I wish that at one time, this country could be in a situation where we don't borrow at all. Honorable Nyenze is talking about a balanced budget where you are able to live within your means. And I want to assure the House, Honorable Speaker, that this committee will be pursuing very keenly the issue of ensuring that we continue to reduce our budget deficit so that at the end of the day, Honorable Speaker, we start the journey to live within our means, Honorable Speaker. That is critical. The other thing, Honorable Speaker, which has also come up is the issue of data accountability. Honorable Speaker, members have mentioned the issue of Treasury appearing not to be providing proper accountability for the loans. This has been mentioned by Honorable Wangwe when he talks about his committee where they're finding loans have been borrowed, but in terms of whether services and goods have been delivered, there is that gap. And I think all of us as a House, it is time we took matters public debt seriously, because from the analysis you have seen, which you have done, issues of consolidated fund expenditures takes the lion's share out of our budget, Honorable Speaker. So it is important as a House, we take this matter seriously, and the implementation committee should immediately take up these recommendations and run up with them in terms of implementation. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I once more thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and I thank honorable members for their contributions. I beg to reply. Thank you.
Honorable members, I defer the putting of the question on this matter to another date. Next order.
Order number 13, the Mangi Beans Bill, Senate Bill number 13 of 2022, second reading.
Honorable members, I have a communication from the Honorable Member Paul Nzenge, who is the promoter of this bill, that this be deferred to another date. And I so direct. Next order.
Order number 14, the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, Senate Bill number 29 of 2023, second reading.
The Honorable Beatrice Kemei, second reading. Honorable Beatrice Kemei, would you want this to be deferred also to another date? Order, honorable members.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You are not willing to move it now?
Can we defer?
Okay, fair enough. I do understand that you had also did seek an approval from the chair that this also be allocated another date. I saw direct. I saw that order. The MP for Funyula. Order. Next order. Order number 15.
Order number 15, the Land Laws Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 76 of 2023, second reading.
What's your point of order, the Honorable Emilio Odhiambo?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not about to do that. I think, yes, I am smart. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, what I wanted to find out, because the members were consulting loudly, and I'd been waiting for the care and protection of teenage mothers or something like that. That's what I was actually keen on. So I didn't actually get your directions. I just had you moving to a next order.
We are past that order now. I've already directed that this be put on the order paper on another date. And I'm sure you will in time know which date it is for you. I know you are passionate about when it comes to children. Really, I have known you for all the years, and that is one thing that you have performed exceptionally well, protecting the children of Kenya. So we will pick a date. Next order.
Order number 15, the Land Laws Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 76 of 2023, second reading.
This one also, the majority leader is not around. I presume that he is gone to attend to equally very urgent business. I direct that this order, particular order number 15, be deferred to another date. Order number 16, next order.
Order number 16, motion, reports of the Auditor General on the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 9 constituencies in Bungoma County.
Is the chair of the Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee around? I don't see him in the house, and I direct that this also be placed on the order paper at an appropriate time in the future. Go on, proceed. Next order.
Order number 17, motion, public petitions on funds spent contrary to the provisions of Article 2223 of the Constitution.
I also do not see the chair of the Public Petitions Committee in the House, and it's my presumption that he's also busy on some other business. Tomorrow being a budget day, I am sure members are busy with a lot of things. So I direct that this also be placed on the order paper at a future date. Next order.
Order number 18, motion, reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements of specified state corporations.
The chairperson, Public Investments Committee on Social Services, Administration and Agriculture, is equally not in the house. That I direct this matter be also placed on the order paper at an appropriate date in the future. Proceed. Next order.
Order number 19, motion, enhancing reporting of parliamentary business on online platforms.
I don't see the chairperson of the Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library in the House, and I also direct that this matter be placed on the order paper at a future date. Next order.
Order number 20, motion, inspection visits to semi-autonomous institutions of the East African Community in Uganda.
The chairperson, Committee on Regional Integration, the gracious lady. She is ordinarily a very efficient member and chair, but I don't see her today in the House. I also direct that this matter, based on the importance, should be placed on the order paper at a future date. Next order.
Order number 21, motion, implementation status of reports on petitions and resolutions passed by the House.
I equally do not see the chairperson, Committee on Implementation. Like I said before, I do know that tomorrow is a budget day, and everybody is busy in other businesses. Under the circumstances, I direct that this matter also be put on the order paper at a future date. Next order.
Order number 22, motion, alleged unfair trade practices by foreign investors in Kenya.
The chairperson, Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, is equally not in the House now. What's your point of order, Honorable Millie Odhiambo?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you must have noted that I think we are almost on the 7th chair, and none of the chairs are in this House.
Yes.
They are not taking their work seriously, and Mr. Speaker, I would really want to encourage that you raise this matter further. If they are not interested in taking those positions, they let us know. We can help them and take over their roles, because we don't know whether they are helping the Deputy President in carrying his suitcase. But that issue has already been sorted out, so they don't need to go and help the Deputy President in carrying his suitcase. But it's an issue of concern if you are here to deal with the serious issues relating to the House, and all the chairs are not here. That's not serious. We are only on the 2nd year of Parliament. If they are already tired at the 2nd year and we still have 3 years to go, they need to let go their positions to other members.
What's your point of order, the Honorable Rosa Buyu?
Chair, thank you. If you allow me, I'd just like to correct the honorable member who's just spoken, that indeed those members are not helping the Deputy President carry his suitcase, but instead they are helping the governor of Nyeri really plan on the next Mandamano. Thank you, Chair.
You seem to have information that we do not have, but thank you for your bit. Yeah, under the circumstances, I do realize this also will have to be deferred to another date. Next order.
Order number 23, motion, second report on employment diversity audit in public institutions.
The Chairperson, Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity. If I'm right, I think the chairperson for this committee is from Mandera, but I don't see him. Honorable Aden is not in Parliament. So just like the rest, I will also defer this to an appropriate date in the future. You realize I am unusually and lenient with these chairs because tomorrow is a budget day, and a presumption is that they are making last-minute rushes here and there. And the circumstances, I also take into consideration the sentiments of Rosa Buyu, who say that they are involved in something else. I don't subscribe to that. But nonetheless, they are not here, and I direct that this also be put on the order paper at a later date in the future. Honorable members, there doesn't seem to be another business, and under the circumstances, order, honorable members. Honorable members, the time being 6:22 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, tomorrow, the 13th of June, 2024, at 2:30 p.m.